of Kittens and Broken Things, Chapter 46. Kara really did have the collector thing all figured out. The Solarian issue was a sideline. She felt safe enough in the apartment. She did address the council about Krogan, escorted there and back fully armored and armed. Nobody shot at her. She credited Thane, who she had not seen in days, but who had been in touch with her, Liara and Garrus separately and together regarding progress on Solarian interests and the approaches toward destabilizing them. Upon further reflection, and during a conference with the four of them, her on Garrus's lap, she had said, "If the Solarians are afraid of my influence, then let me make it real. I'll give my address and I'll tell the council what I need, and I'll get it. I'll tell them about the Krogan. I'll tell them about the collectors. I'll make it public. They won't need to be afraid of potential influence any longer because it will be something unstoppable. Eliminate me, eliminate Garrus, eliminate Anderson and Tevos. They'd have to do all of that, and then control all replacements with everyone aware that it was the Solarians that did it because they were the only ones that would benefit from such a thing. I'll make it clear in the address. You three make it clear in political, influential, and media outlets. I have power. I know the Solarians are after me. I know why. I won't go after them. I'm going after what I'm supposed to go after, and I have full council support. I will have Krogan support. So we put it out there. I put it out there. Full Shepard regalia. I need to focus on collectors. I'll stay safe in the apartment. The Normandy's safe. I'm sure I don't have to do a thing to protect myself. You three have it covered, huh?" A smile from Thane. Solemn nod from Liara. A squeeze from Garrus.
Yep.
Thank you. So, tentative win? Garrus had informed the council members of the content of the briefing. It was pageantry on all sides. A seemingly united front, but with daggers drawn, the edge glittering, but the point concealed. Garrus had also alerted Anderson and Tevos to Solarian scheming, and there was a distinct chill toward the Solarian, who gave none of the overt signs of contempt that he had been accustomed to giving. She ended her informative and calm briefing about the Krogan by saying, "We have a solution to the issue of the collectors. We are going to need several teams to execute arrangement of tracking and isolating future collector vessels and then capture of each. There are collector vessels for each species. We will be able to find and claim those ships, return as many people as possible to their homes, as we did with the Turians at Trireme. Once the vessels are tracked and taken, we will take them through the Omega Relay. We will dock at the main base. There we will rescue as many people from as many species as possible and end the threat the collectors pose to all of us. Thank you for your cooperation." That should give them something to chew on. She didn't tell anybody what she was planning to do definitively to end the collector threat. She had gotten the idea from the Bahak system, an asteroid directed toward the Mass Effect relay. That system had been destroyed, and the relay was no longer functional. So, she was going to set a collector ship on course to collide with the relay after they evacuated the main base, which they knew about ahead of time due to the raided collector data. The Solarian issue, in comparison, was a distraction, and she shunted that off to Garrus, Liara, and Thane because she was going to be busy, coordinating and setting scouts, arraying the resources given to her by the Council unanimously. Every relay near colonists needed to be monitored. They needed to be able to scramble. A collector ship could be much more easily hijacked than the last time with a method she had developed with Edie. Systems could be frozen in the same way Edie had done it prior, now with Edie also unshackled, and on a collector ship of her own, transferring some of herself into the collector ship, and from there it was easy to slide into the data stream of another collector ship. A Trojan Edie. Apparently the collector ship's computing system was roomy and fun. Edie loved the collector space, soaked in the tech. Edie and Kara had spent a lot of time talking about sneaky ways to bring down a collector ship, creating a fleet of those ships, and then ending the collectors. She could see to the end there. It was possible. It was probable, and it would work. Much higher possibility of excellent outcome than she was used to, cumulatively satisfying in the Sun Tzu sense, because she wouldn't need to fight to risk lives for the most part. She would take life. Unfortunately, all of the collectors they had captured were drones without will or intellect. Harbinger had vacated, and there was no means of negotiation. No intelligence, no way to communicate, no platform of cooperation. Rather than physically fight their way through, as they had to do in the first ship, the lives of the collectors would be eradicated through introducing nerve gas. The gas would paralyze collectors, and then they would be vented into space, unable to secure themselves. Painless. She had experienced death in vacuum. It had not been painless. She could not come up with a better way, and it was the best way to save sentient lives that were then going to take control of a ship and rescue those taken. The collector ships had huge stored sources of this gas and the capacity to manufacture more at any time. It was what circulated in the pods to keep their harvest in place. Anybody in isolated pods would be protected. Anybody out in the main spaces of the ship would be vulnerable. She wished she could save them. Edie had postulated that they were the genetic descendants of Protheans, but there was nothing remaining of them to communicate with. They had been slaves for 50,000 years. Kara had been very careful to ensure that each collector in custody was put to death painlessly, and the bodies disintegrated so that no bodies or parts were taken for any experimentation. They had endured enough. She spoke Prothean prayers she had learned from Liara on the day of their execution. Kara found she still had some things to cry about, but they were unrelated to her at the moment. She had a balance of automated release of Reverie medication that Dr. Chakwas titrated for her based on readings on her Omnitool. Reverie wasn't anywhere near as disruptive, painful, or frightening as it had been before in withdrawal, so she was able to ease into a cycle of days spent scheming and planning, nights with Garrus's warm smile and strong arms, humor, and love. Switching from their lack of potential domesticity to her being involved in his work and fascinated, they both worked on Solarian issues, parceling out bits of hacked information translated into a media approach, Thane having apparently convinced several reporters to change tacks in their coverage. The Solarian Union was facing having media coverage of a lot of unsavory dealings. Garrus was able to hand the information directly to Turian reporters. Valerne was on the run, and the Union on the defensive. More and more reporters were being given bits and pieces. New reporters were finding things on their own. Forewarned and forearmed about the death threat after the immediate shock of someone that shouldn't want me dead wants me dead had worn off, she had stopped worrying about it so much. She had a sense of poised readiness, beginning to execute a leapfrogging attack on collectors. Edie, familiar with the collector ship alone, able to hijack other vessels on her own. Kara could stay on the Citadel, safe in nerd heaven, near her bondmate, as the plan carried forward. It was elegant and intricate, and Kara enjoyed the Pawneefa sense of inevitable setup and execution. All the pieces were arrayed and were moving in. She was happy. Really, really happy. Garrus had a lot to do with that, but so did setting up strategic solutions to issues where she did not need a gun, where she discussed it in Garrus's lap, and where Thane was not murdering a counselor. Yet, what she needed now was time, and she was going to have that, safe in Turian arms while they talked about anything and everything. Carousel now comfortably used to falling asleep on Garrus's shoulder, obscuring a scent patch with smug ownership. A week in, they got their first sighting of a collector ship at a relay. Trojan Edie, in her collector ship suit, sent out to a Drell colony. Vimisen. Then, bloodlessly, they had a second collector ship, Edie having taken the ship on the ground and into space, venting the collectors and preserving 80,081 viable Drell lives on board. Edie was smug and complained bragged that it was too easy. Kara was so proud. She saw Thane for the first time the day after. He wasn't there, and then he was. She'd been studying and absorbed, and then let out a surprised squeak as he lifted her from the couch, swept her into a hug, fierce and sudden, with his arms wrapped around her and his lips in her hair. "Thank you, Lasson, for the lives of my people." "You're welcome." He slid her down his body to the floor, her legs trembling and feet unsteady. One arm of his remained around her waist, and he held her chin between envenomed fingers, his wide palm under her jaw. She swallowed. "Swear word." "Lasson, I made you a promise. I wish to break it. I wish for you to break it with me." "What promise?" "I told you I would return to Erica at the shores. Now, I cannot find my way there. I know she understands. She is with me, and I am with you. Tell me if you have promised Vicarian yourself after you die." "If I... What? This is... after I've died." He didn't laugh, but his lips twitched and settled into determination, leaning over her and bending her back. "The sun. Kara, will you meet him? Is there a Taurian heaven, a Taurian shores? I know only of their spirits, not of their souls. Humans have souls, as do Drell, meeting places. Have you promised yourself?" "No. I don't remember being dead. I am working on the premise that once I am, it's over. I'm over." "I refuse to accept that." "You have the shores. You have Erica. You have Kolyat. I have you. I have this chance. If you have made no promise, then I will ask. You asked me to keep my promise to my wife, that you would not consider me as a mate because she exists, she waits, but she would want my happiness. You wished for me to have peace with my family, and I do. I have, but you are also my family, Lasson. In truth, I can always have them in my heart, full in their roles, and known as loved. You. I wish for you to be my future once your present is past. There is a Drell myth of Manipar. Have you heard of it?" She was shaking, stunned. Just that little bit of venom from his hand making her want to hear the story, making her want to say yes. She leaned toward yes, but realized it was no. She didn't know of Manipar. No. What are they? Once more his temptations were impossible to resist as he skimmed the edges of the denied, caressing fingers along boundaries. Not an invasion, but an invitation. Drell souls. They live and die in pairs. They do not go to the shores when they die, but are reborn over and over together to find each other. They choose mortality rather than immortality. Together. Humans also have this idea. Reincarnation. We are much alike in spirit in many ways. So many ways, Kara. Now that Rakana is gone, the Manipar are lost. They cannot find Drell women who are with child to imbue with spirit. Now they walk the poisoned sand, seeking each other without bodies, without eyes, and they will never find the shores, never find each other. Could that be like us, Lissam? You come from a place with different gods. You have no shores, and I do not wish to go there without you. Perhaps we have found a way through the storm and the poison to each other off Rakana, bearing the scars of other worlds. I did not find you before you were pledged. I will wander, I will wait, but I ask you, Lissam, consider your love for Drelthings, your love of our history, your love of me, your obsession and mastery of Pon Ifa at such a young age, and now you being the savior of so many Drell lives. You died, and you have returned. Is it possible? You are a Manipar. My Manipar? That I am yours? I found Irika in my search. You found Garrus. We can still find each other again with another shift of the dunes. We lost each other. You wandered far to find a place with life, a human woman to fill with spirit. I could return, begin again, with a body and a mind without sin. I would be worthy. I would find you. She could believe she was a paired soul, hungry and wandering until she found him. It felt like an echo of that image of the Manipar stumbling in the sand, some impossible moment where her body and mind had been certain she'd reject any offer, until this exact moment. His hands, his voice like keys to locks, a click and a fall and a rush of air, maybe a remembered desert wind. It did feel like a choice, a destiny, and something they might have done together somehow. The faith and determination overarching not just one life, but many. She'd been so many people. Maybe she could be different people because she'd lived over and over with him, and she remembered different selves. It was calming, almost joyous, to consider having a life fulfilled with a bondmate, and then to be free to seek Thane, to find him, to have Garrus in her heart as Thane had Irika, somehow souls in iteration joining together, meeting, becoming in Drell words, whole and along a chosen and fated path. All together. All the reasons they could not be together, gone. Forgiveness and promise rediscovered after new truths forged. If she believed in Irika waiting, she must believe in Irika forgiving. She did believe Thane deserved forgiveness and to choose his own path forward. If she believed in the shores, she must believe in this chance. She couldn't have it both ways. Ask him to keep to a given bond when released. Ask him to uphold the imaginary she didn't honor. She did honor it. She wanted to honor it. She wanted her parents to be real. Wanted them to be together. Wanted herself and Thane to pass through a barrier and reform somehow in a way that was free and clear of all other promises made after having kept faith with them. With Garrus and Irika with them, Russ and Kolyat, Liara, either in hearts and minds or in new and unrecognized bodies, except to look into eyes and to know that this person mattered. This person meant something. Out of all the potential people, all the potential grains of sand that had been searched, here, now, this person, this matters. Otherwise, how many chances would they get to see before they passed each other, and wandered a planet's length of sorrow and pain before they saw each other again? All they needed to do was to see each other now, recognize each other, give each other permission to remember, to see. He knew they had. This was a formality, an invitation to that calm joy. Love could multiply rather than restrict. She didn't believe it, but it felt close to a truth. Beyond the poetry, it was a chance, venom-slick and dreaming. Much less than a 0.1% chance of coming true, but no investment other than hope that if they came back, if it was true, that each step on burning sand could have a companion, a meaning, a myth, and a truth to be found. They were so much alike, the passing of quiet understanding in gesture, and eyes finding every way to be together, eyes over a board and shared smiles, schemes, and devious knowing of the recursive nature of fate, the twisted path, and the true not true of being together. She did love him, beyond a doubt. She did want him. His lips pressed to her ear, his voice something new, with the colors of love blending with the colors of spirit. A manipar, recognizing his mate. Spirit made flesh. I want you, Lassam, never doubt. I will want you until I die. Then, if you bid me, I will seek a woman whose child needs a spark of spirit, and I will be reborn. I will struggle to live. I will find you again. Would you, have you, forsaken the shores for me? Could you be a Drell soul seeking eternity with wandering eyes? Would you, have you sacrificed eternity at peace for endless lives spent searching? I cannot say for certain that I have, but I would, Lassam. I would for you. I would be your manipar, if you would be mine. Would you, have you claimed me as your destiny, not once, or sometimes faltering as now, but always renewed in potential? Could it be we have wandered since Rakana's fall until we found our way? We would have eternity. We would try again and again until we make the sand shift our way. Could you, have you looked beyond the shores as I have? Have you and will you take your Drell soul once the time of your Turian mate and your human body passes, seeking the sand with my footsteps at your side? When I first saw you, I saw Siha. My gods, honor you for what you've done for me, for what you've done for my people. Your people, our people. They are your gods, I know it. If we do not belong together now, we will belong together later. We might have belonged to each other before. Eternity is long, Lassam, and I would not rest until I found you. Neither of us were born on the planets our species claimed, lost and lonely, tested and taken. My footsteps will walk with yours for this lifetime. No matter your answer, I am yours. You might be mine if you had the will. I ask that if you linger beyond this life, as is your wont, you search for me. You will not be alone in your search. I will find you. You know me, Lassam. You know my heart. You know I will. It will cost you nothing to say yes. Cost your bondmate nothing, already promised. It would prove I am forgiven. My path is clear to choose as my own. I choose you at the end of my life. I wish to begin my new life, inspired by your eyes. It would be, to me, a promise of everything. I will die soon, Lassam. You may die soon. Give me hope. The image of layered lives and wanted things, myth and moments, in an unrecognized but somehow real to them both whirl where it rose like a mirage they could reach if they both believed in it together. It was poetry she wanted. It was something she could give him as powerful as the idea of shores or heaven, those things that were seen by, wanted by the soul. Those ideas that guided feet over sand, ideas that weren't hunger or pain, but were love and hope. He wished to be guided by those things, imbue his spirit with such things. She didn't want him to step back. Between them was shared, real pain, poison, passion, and she only had one answer in her own moment of potential and dreamed of recognition, and blended voice made of myth and venom, and a surprised squeak turned to a mirage. Yes. Thank you, Kara. His shoulders slumped, and his head was on her shoulder. She moved her hand as though to cradle his head, but he seemed to melt, falling to his knees, his arms around her hips and his head against her stomach. She wasn't surprised or shocked. No squeak or worry, understanding the depth of loneliness and call of love seeking an answer, any answer, the answer, the truth, and face with the cruelty of the lengths of thirsty sand. Her fingertips sought the curves of his frill, textured lines between scale, venom on her throat and fingertips. Venom not at all the reason why she had said or thought what she had said or thought. They both knew that. And it only made it easier to see the mirage, to say the truth of an imagined hope. He wanted to know he was wanted, he was loved. And he was. Enough to fill an eternity. He stayed on his knees until his breathing evened, until he grew still, and the trembling left both of their limbs. His grip on her hips shifted, and he stood, lifting her above him, until she looked down at his uplifted face, his determination transmuted to patience and appreciation of an ephemeral gift. He slid her down his body again, until his lips met her brow. Then he set her on her feet, and he was gone, in a trailing cloud of hallucinatory golden glow. She tried to ask herself what she'd just done, but she knew. She tried to ask herself why she had done it, but she knew. She wasn't Drell, even if she might have a Drell soul. But she did remember Thane looking at her over Nasana's body, looking at her over a Panifu board, looking at her over a cup of tea, holding her as pain racked her body, and he whispered comfort and love in her ear. She knew exactly why and what she had done. She knew what stumbling through sand felt like. Did not want to do it again without giving it meaning. She wanted to stumble toward like-minded love. She was unable to resist a mirage of a tent pitched in the sand under starlight. Unable to lie about it when asked. Unable to lie to him. Not about this. Of all the gazes and schemes and devious understanding, there were things holy to them both. She didn't believe in forever. She believed in him believing in forever, and that he would be loved all of that time. She spared a moment for prayer to newly adopted gods. Kalahira, let me be worthy. Thane retreated from the apartment, afraid to stay because, despite his promise, he would press her if he looked in her eyes once more. From his all he gained was her pour of love, of hope, of wishing to be part of something mystical and eternal. Approval of his finally learning a long-taught and long-wished lesson. From Kolyat, all he imagined was seeing his son speak to Kara, both animated and tumbling over each other in enthusiasm to speak, to share. Quickly he was in the darkness of one of his retreats, spare and stark. He preferred the dark, and in this case, even with the light of green eyes refracting through him, he wished for that to be his only light. Inside the door, he was on his knees again. Prayer, and the unwillingness to stand upright. His breath was shorter, coming shorter every day, and his life would not last long. What he lacked was time. He had all the will, all the determination, but he lacked time. She had given it to him, without question, because he had asked. Ephemeral, and even for her, bewildered, she had no use for the afterlife in her logical state, but this was a woman who spoke to her parents, heard their voices every day after their death. He wished for her to hear his voice. He wished for her to be reborn with the knowledge she was loved, to carry that with faith each day. He wanted that for himself. Ree would have her shores and her peace. Thane would have his rebirth and his struggle. One day he would look into eyes of any color and know she was important. He belonged with her, as he had this time, as he knew they could make it true if it was possible to be true. He would not allow his soul to die along with his body, as he had once intended, believing himself mourned by no one. He would have been returned to Rakana to wander the sands alone, denied the shores, without a mate, only the sand and the poison and the thirst and the time. Then there had been Erica and Kolyat. There had been a woman with green eyes and hope, and she had turned him her way. If he were reborn as a Drell, would he be able to retain the memory of her? What had he done before to be able to recognize her? Had it been the force of her, or had he primed himself to know? He developed new prayers, new chants, new affirmations. There is a woman. Would she be a woman? Would he be a man? It did not matter. There is a soul. Maybe she would not have eyes. Maybe they would not be Drell. It did not matter. There is a soul, and when you sense them, follow them, lead them, cherish them, love them, for the choices you will make together will be greater than the choices you could make separately. Through them, you will be whole. It was his new prayer. He repeated it ardently, with shortened breath, in the dark, hoping to make whatever impression upon himself possible to carry through, forgetting everything else after he died.